أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم اخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم واكرمنا بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا باب رحمتك وانشر علينا من خزائن علومك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. My brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My brothers and sisters, we are as Shia in this time and in this place facing a very critical situation. And it is of the utmost importance that all of us as youth are very well prepared for the years to come, because what is ahead of you is going to be a very difficult path. You know about the path before you, the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and the sacrifices of all our predecessors just in the last century. I'm not speaking the last 1,400 years of our heritage. You know our heritage is one of sacrifice. Our ulama and shuhada and our people all across the world. But in recent years, with globalization, we spread around the world. And now there is a fraction of us, not many of us, a fraction of us over here. We are going to face very critical times to come because of what's happening in the world. You already know, just a decade ago, our shrines, the shrines that we value the most in the world, were under attack. Those who we love the most in the world, the family of our dear beloved Prophet, and the ahibba of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were under attack. And it was at risk that you could no longer go and visit Imam Ali alayhi salam. You could no longer go and visit Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, and we could no longer go and visit Sira Zainab alayhi salam. But because of the sacrifices of our maraji' and our ulama and our shuhada, we were able to safeguard our heritage and our most valued locations and that which is most dear to us and our people. We kept our people safe rather than them being massacred as they have been constantly massacred around the world for generations. Then we experienced pride and honor in the last 5 or 4 decades or so, even though there was much difficulty. And whatever anyone wants to think or feels about the Islamic Revolution in Iran in 79 is fine, whatever someone wants to think positively or negatively, but the facts are undeniable that Tashayyu' overall benefited from this. That's why we were able to galvanize so many people to defend our lands and our people, at the very least, yani. But the stability, somewhat of a stability, it hasn't been very stable, but somewhat of a stability, at the very least, for you and I to grow in a time in which you had much pride in being a Shi'i. Even though all these people around you would call you grave worshippers, they would call you all these different names, you knew, and I knew, even on the world stage, you look at the people of Dalal, and look who's constantly fighting them, the people of Haqq. It was so obvious. And we were proud because our leaders and our people were constantly found in the positions of Haqq on the world stage, let alone here. What happens though, over time, especially as children of diaspora, we become very reliant upon our leaders and our people in the majority Shi'i locations of the world that we think that is taken care of. It's fine. Our leaders, they have everything under control. Our maraji', they have everything under control. I can get on with my life normally, and you talk about everything. We tend to talk about the situations in a way that it's divorced from the reality of my own life, because we took for granted what we had. And that's normal. We had such power in the last few generations. What's happening now is a re-emergence of what they've been trying to do for the last 20 years. The imperialist and colonialist powers have tried to divide the people, and it's worked with all the other Muslims except the Shia Muslims so far. The Shia Muslims have been, this is not sensationalism from myself, this is evident because we can see who they're focusing on the most right now. And even though they couldn't penetrate Lebanon and conquer Lebanon, you guys saw in the last 2 days what's happened. That there has been a switch of fronts and a re-emergence of what happened 10 years ago in Syria. Suddenly, they're back. When it came to Palestine, they were nowhere to be found. When it came to Syria, jihad is now obligatory. Now they all want to do jihad. That's why they say, make sure there's all the Shia in Israel and they'll free Israel. They'll free Palestine, yani. So what's happening is an attack on our heritage. And what's going to happen after that is an attack on your identity. Except this time, you're not going to have the same leaders. Okay, this is the reality. And we already lost a few in recent years. And just a few months ago, we lost one of the major ones. And may Allah lengthen the life of Sayyid Sistani. And may Allah lengthen the life of Sayyid Khamenei. May Allah take the remainder of my life and give it to them. But we know, according to the average age of a human being, they are at the final stages. May Allah lengthen their lives. What does that mean? You're not going to have the same backdrop that you've always had. Your whole life, you have had Sayyid Sistani, pretty much. Most of you. Most of you were not around the time of Sayyid al-Khou'i and Imam Khomeini. You had most of you, Sayyid Sistani, Sayyid Khamenei, and other Maraja, may Allah bless them. You had such powerful personalities in Lebanon and elsewhere, but they're not there. Your identity, much of it, was reliant, unfortunately, on personalities. This is a fact. You may not have known this, but when it comes down to it, this is the reality. What's happening now, in the times to come, is when Shia lives are going to be on the line again. But not only Shia lives, Shia Aqidah, your theology, that's why we've been speaking about theology and how it applies to contemporary issues. Your theology and your identity, your Hawiyya. Especially as children of diaspora, those who are in the West, that you are not surrounded by a Shi'i society. What's going to happen when what I'm going to call this phenomenon, I'm going to call it the Al-Aql al-Shi'i. Al-Aql al-Shi'i. That Aql that we are all referring to. The intellect of the Shi'i, which we have been reliant upon in terms of haqq and quwwah, power and truth for these last few decades. Now there is going to be ghar bala. Now there's going to be a lot of confusion. This is going to have to be solved by this generation. That means it's okay to grieve and feel pain and mourn our beloveds, our leaders, our people, our families, and our martyrs. But we cannot get lost in the moment of grief, or even in the moment of momentary, temporary victory. You have to think about the 5 years ahead and 10 years ahead. What's going to come for you and your family? What's going to come for you and your people? What's going to come for you and your land? What's going to come for you and your heritage? What's going to come for you and your shrines? If you've read the history, you know massacres are a very real phenomena that happen much faster than you think. And we cannot be divorced from it because we are further away in location. Little do you know, suddenly it might appear at your doorstep. Because of this, your aqidah, your belief system, has to be at the forefront of your minds. And you have to wonder about yourself. If you are taken one day and you are on your own, and your aqidah is now the only thing between you and the cowardly death, how are you going to respond? How are you going to feel? What will you say and how will you act? This is a very important point that all of us should be meditating upon. And you have to meditate upon this. We take our safety for granted. This is not only about helping those that are not safe. This is about you preparing for a time where you may not be safe. I am not trying to scare you. I am trying to prepare you. We have to prepare ourselves. So I, as myself, am looking at my role amongst my people and my community, and I have to figure out how can I protect and preserve this aql al-shi'i, which I have inherited from our sacrifices of our people. How can I prepare and create innovative ways to protect it and to continue to spread it? This is not a burden that I have to hold on my own. This is a burden that the elite brothers and sisters of this community, when I say elite, it's because it's going to take a lot of strength and discipline and power and will and determination. You have to be committed to this in your different capacities. And how are you going to preserve this heritage, which has been passed down to you for over 1,000 years? Because, God forbid, Zainab is taken captive twice, is not something that we can accept. So how can I preserve and protect innovatively al-aql al-shi'i? I'm not even talking about the physical shrine right now. I'm talking about your own identity that you have been relying upon this aql al-shi'i for decades. This aql al-shi'i is going to change now. The leadership, the faces are all going to change. Soon enough, if God gives us life, they're going to be pictures and memories. May God preserve their lives. But this path continues. And Abu Abdullah alayhi salam's cry continues until the advent and the return of our Imam. And the Imam does not return if we are not ready. And we are not ready. But this is a new phenomenon, what's happening here. We are the first generation of Shi'is that has grown up here. Obviously, several generations, but I'm speaking generally over the 20 years between all of us here in this crowd. We haven't seen what this community can do yet. Of course, the idea is that we become conformists, and over time, our children are no longer loyal to our and our parents' heritage, and they lose their tongue and language and theology, and it goes. What we're betting on, insha'Allah, is that we can create with the platform that we have received, and the voice we have received, and the language we have received, to help invest in our people, in our heritage, in our theology, in our identity for the future generations. Because of this, the topic that we've been speaking about in terms of al-aqidah is critical. When we're speaking about, Ya Allah, why did you do all this? Why are we facing all this hardship? Aren't you supposed to be helping us? Aren't you supposed to be here for us? Why did you create all these enemies? And I began the discussion yesterday on divine justice, al-adl ilahi, and what the Shi'i theological answer to that is. And I will continue on that point. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ya Allah, why did you create Israel? Why? What was this? What was the point of this? Why did you create people who destroy? Why did you create murderers? Why did you create sinners if you know that they're going to hell? What's the point? Why would you do that? You knew they're going to end up in hellfire. Most people that you create will end up in hell. So why would you make them? Isn't that pointless? Isn't that wrong? And as I mentioned yesterday, who were the first ones to ever ask that question? The angels. It's the same question. This question that you ask is the same question the angels ask Allah when He said, Inni ja'alun fil ardi khalifa. I am going to create this representation, this vicegerent of mine on earth. This human being, Adam. Adam as a symbol of you and I, our father, and symbol of humanity. I'm going to create this being. This being will be made from clay and from spirit. And he breathes into him from his spirit. The angels are confused because the angels are looking at themselves and they say, we are ma'sumin. We don't do any wrong. And you created us. Why would you create a being that can cause so many problems? قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك. They compared themselves. They didn't only say, how come? They compared, you're creating them, but we're here. And we're doing tasbih of you and taqdees of you. We're glorifying you. And we keep reciting your names. Why would you create a being that can't do what we do? Why would you create a being that can wrong you? Because they can see this being has willpower, which I'm going to be speaking about more tomorrow night. The free will aspect. The angels, they only worship and devote themselves to God. They were looking at this creature that's made of clay and spirit, and they focused on the clay. Because they see clay, they see imperfection, and they see the possibility of destruction and bloodshed that is to come, and corruption that is to come. And were they wrong? They're not wrong. They're not wrong about fasad wa faskud dima. Now we can just put up on your phone. You see fasad wa faskud dima. The angels were correct to ask the question. They asked the question. Allah didn't tell them, do what I say, khalas. Allah, He wanted to show them, subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wanted to convince them. There are so many lessons in this story, in the Quran. This needs various tafasir for you to be able to truly absorb the wisdom behind the imagery that Allah paints in these verses. The way Allah speaks to them, His methodology. Remember yesterday I spoke about the methodology on how we look at something to see if it's good or bad. Allah didn't tell them, I am Allah, do what I say. I created you, how dare you question me? Allah said to them, He brought Adam, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. He brought Adam and He taught him the names. And He told the angels, إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. I know what you don't know. There's something that you don't know. Because the angels, how did they know this? How did they know there was going to be bloodshed and corruption? Because when they looked at their own data, in terms of the friction between the clay and the spirit, they saw ultimately this being that has free will cause all these problems. And because they had a previous experience, according to some of the narrations, that before Adam there were 1,000 Adams, and that there was a creature called the Nasnas that was on earth, a Neanderthal-like creature, humanoid-like creature that resembled Adam, that they saw these creatures cause problems. But the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded to them was a way in which to convince them, to show them. He taught Adam the names. Even though they're trying to compare it to themselves, He taught Adam the names. He brought Adam. He taught him all the names. When you ask what are the names, He told Adam, say the names to the angels. Tell them the names. And when the angels heard the names, then they took a step back. And they said, Subhanak. That was the first word. Why? Subhanak is tanzih. It means that you are perfect. It means, Subhanallah, there is no imperfection in you, Ya Allah. When we see the stars, the mountains, we say, Subhanallah. What does that mean? How amazing is Subhanallah? It means, Lord, there is no imperfection in you. You're perfect. You did everything perfectly. So they said, Subhanak. You know best. لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا. Even the data that we have, in which we concluded that there will be bloodshed and there will be corruption, that data was based on what you gave us. And if some of that is missing, we accept that. And you know best. Because He showed them. Adam spoke the names. What were the names? He came and the first name he said was Muhammad. He told them the names of the Prophet, the people of Allah, al-awliya wal ahlul bayt, according to the tafsir. He told them the names. What does that mean? You see, when you tell them that name, the greatest of Allah's creation, what He's showing them is this is what I can make. This creature is above all other creatures. This is what the ultimate result of this human project is going to be. Why? This creation has what you don't have, ya malaika. This creation has the power of imagination and the creative ability and the potential that is way beyond angels. And this prophet is the greatest example of what I can give you. So it's a very mystical reply. Someone might look at face value and say, oh, just in the Prophet Muhammad is why. You have to look at what Prophet Muhammad represents in the human story. The story of humanity and the human project. This creature shows the perfection of Allah in a way that nothing else can. No other creature showed the perfection of God like the human creature. Of course, I say creature in a forgiving way. Of course, Rasulullah, may Allah bless him and his holy progeny, is way beyond that word. But creature as in human, a human being. And this individual, Prophet Muhammad, is the greatest example of that. When the angels saw that, they took a step back. And then, for Allah, they did sujood towards Adam. For Allah. You know, Iblis's problem with sujood, according to some of the scholars, was arrogance as well as jealousy. Some say, no, why should I bow down to him? Because he's made of clay, I'm made of fire. But also because, Ya Allah, I love you too much. I can't do sujood to someone other than you. You know, I don't accept to do sujood other than you. But Allah is saying, do sujood. Allah said, do sujood. So when they come and tell you, I don't want to go through Ahlul Bayt or Imam Mahdi or Imam Hussain, Sayyidah Fatima Tawassul, I'll go to Allah straight away. Do you? You can go there. But Allah told me these are the most loved of His creations. I'll go through them. And this is an Iblis problem. So the angels took a step back and they admitted and they did sujood. And this creation is then, in our narrations, greater than an angel in potential, or beneath an animal in potential, because it has intellect and it has desire. The animal has only desire. The angel has only intellect. So the human being, if his desire overtakes his intellect, he is beneath the animal that has no intellect, that only wants to mate, eat and sleep. There are human beings, they only want to mate, eat and sleep, even though they have an intellect. And then there are those human beings whose intellect conquers their desire. And you receive people, they're not ma'sumin. Remove me from the ma'sumin. You receive people like we know who they are. The greatest of Allah's men and women. Not ma'sumin. Their intellect overcomes their desire. They're higher than angels. In our narration, they say, لِلَّهِ عِبَادٍ لَيْسُوا بِأَنْبِيَاء يَغْبُطْهُمُ الْأَنْبِيَاء. That they're not prophets. The prophets are jealous of them. Because this human being has that potential. So there are two main faculties of this human being. His immateriality and his potential. The angels were constantly focused on one aspect. On the material clay. Only on the clay. They were focusing on the bad. Like yesterday when I mentioned, when you only focus on the negatives, you don't look at the whole story. You read one page of the book and it was all about destruction. But that was the climax of the book. Read the whole book, you know the story. You're judging the book by reading one page. Allah showed them, there are more pages to this. Look at all these names. So then, when we look at the immateriality of the human being, that the angels were not looking at, we see what it means for us to be part of this project of insan. When you look at the world around you, all of this is material. This is material, and this is material. Your clay is material. Your body is material. The angels were looking at that side of you. Your material aspect, all of time and space is material. Yani we go billions of light years, 300,000 kilometers per second. Times, look, every day, every week, every month, every year, 365 days a year, times 300,000 for a billion light years, for 1 billion light year. All of this is still material. All of space is material. Even if there is nothing that you can grab, the energy is still material. It can be observed. The dark matter is material. You are beyond all of space in reality because the reality of insan is immaterial, which you only perceive when this body leaves you, when it's buried, when the vehicle of this world is no longer necessary, and you move to the next world, you perceive your reality. We call it tajassud al-a'mal. That's when your self is made up of what you did, your actions, that you are what you do. That's who you really are. So in the next world, bil barzakh, you will be known according to your actions. You might have been a very beautiful person in this world, but a very ugly character. When you die and your true self emerges, it would be an ugly character, an ugly self. There will be beasts that torment that individual, and when you ask the beasts to leave you alone, they can't leave you alone because they're you. They'll reply to you, I'm your ghiba. I am your jealousy and I am your envy. I'm you. I can't leave you. They torment you. Likewise, there are beings like angels of light standing next to you and around you, guiding you. And when you ask them, why are you helping me? I haven't done anything for you. And they reply, where your salat, and where your hajj, and where your wilaya, and where your love. They're with you. They are you. You made them. They're you. They're the real you though. This being that you are right now, what you think, some of you might think you are, your body is not actually you. This is only the vehicle of this world. Your reality is immaterial. The angels weren't looking at that side of you when they asked the question. Allah was. When He taught Adam the names, they were looking at the whole story. Also, your complete and absolute capacity for potential. That you can be as high as Allah gives you, as Allah allows you to be. Because you are faqir in reality. You are faqr, mahd. Ya ayyuhan nas antum al-fuqara ila Allah. O people, you are the ones who are fuqara to God. You are needy of God. You are constantly needy of Him. Even in your existence, you are needy of God. We need Him always, at every point. For your heart to beat once, you need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the realities of insan. Because of that neediness, and Allah is all giving, and He is al-ghani, al-mutlaq. Allah has everything. So when Allah wants to give, if you truly acknowledge your neediness, you will receive everything. And when you receive everything from God, then you mirror Him perfectly. And you become a great, glorious human being. And then you represent the human project in the way Allah intended. Because He created you that way, because of your faqr. But it takes you and I to acknowledge this neediness inside us. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala convinced the angels in this way, that you can't look only at the negatives. You can't conclude that something is negative because it's not 100% good. Even marriage is not 100% good. That's why Allah said in the Quran, mawadda wa rahmah. If it was 100% good, He would say mawadda only. It doesn't need rahmah. But why is there rahmah? Rahmah is to absolve someone of their naqs. Why would there be mercy if there was nothing missing on the other side? I'm going to be merciful for something that is missing. I need to forgive. Allah said, marriage, mawadda wa rahmah. That means in marriage, you have to forgive. Because there are going to be problems. And Allah knew there are going to be problems. It's normal. But marriage overall is good. It's a good thing. Just because there are problems in every relationship doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Just because something takes struggle and there is hardship and trial and tribulation doesn't mean that it's negative and bad. I gave all those examples yesterday. And even further than that, when we talk about investment, investing in our akhirah, that there's a life of jihadun nafs and struggle and hardship. This is a lot of investment. It's not bad. It's painful. But that pain, at the end of everything, when we look at the whole picture, this is good. This is what allows you to be this glorious human being. When we look at a doctor that had to study for 25 years at least to just have a chance of residency. We don't say 25, 26 years to be a doctor. Hey, Yasir, and you have to travel, I don't know how far away. That's not worth it. It's bad. It's bad. You can't say that. You can't say a doctor is bad. We need doctors. We need our doctors to get married as well. We need doctors. It's not bad. 25 years. If someone said you have to work as a garbage man for 10 years, but at the end of it, you'll receive 500 diamond pearls. Okay, I'll do it for 10 years. In the first year, second year, people looking at me might say, this is a really bad job you're doing. This is not worth it. But at the end of it, they'll say, oh, that was worth it. So you can't look at a part of something and say it's negative. You have to look at the whole situation. Likewise, when it comes to why Allah created insan. When we look at Yawm al-Qiyamah, we look at when Allah created insan, if you know that so many of them are going to go to hell, why would you create them? That's not the way that this equation works. The way this equation works is different. You can't say, okay, there are 7 billion people in the world, 2 billion Muslims. Okay. Of those 2 billion Muslims, there's 500 million Shi'is. And of those Shi'is, they follow these maraji' or whatever. How many of them are mu'mineen? 50 million. Which ones go to this mosque, that mosque? Which ones are from this country, that country? End up, 50 people are in heaven. That's not how it works. Part of that organization, this organization, they're on haqq and they're not on haqq. That's not the godly divine equation. Heaven is not decided in that way. You're forgetting al-nawa' wal-kayf. More than the kam. When we talk about diamond pearls and we talk about a doctor, we're talking about al-kayf. We're talking about nawa'. We're talking about a type, a very valuable type. That this person is valuable to society. More valuable than someone that can't provide this service to society because they invested longer in their education. So that person is valuable in terms of what they can provide. When we look at the type of people that will be in heaven, the type of people that attain salvation, the type of people that become who they become through this phenomena and project of insan, then it becomes more understandable when we look at the whole equation as to why God created insan that has the potential to destroy, but has potential to become this glorious human being as well. So when we look at our theology as Shia, we don't believe in exclusive heaven, by the way. It's only for us. We don't believe that. If you are muqassir, sure, muqassir is someone who didn't apply what they know. If you didn't apply what you know, whoever you are in the world, you are going to face a punishment and retribution from God. But when it comes to those who we know as qasir, qasir is someone who did not have the tawfiq. His environment didn't help him. His situation didn't help him. Maybe his body didn't help him. His people, family, people didn't help him. That person who did not have the ability and capacity to receive the truth, that person will be judged based on the muqaddimat that they had, based on what they did, on what they knew. Allah will judge them based on what they did according to what they knew to be good. This is what we believe. So Allah, we believe in His all-forgiving nature, even for those who are not Shia, even for those who are not Muslim. And this is something in our hadith constantly. When Zurara went up to Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam in one hadith, he speaks to him and tells him, we were walking around and we were asking, who is it that follows Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam? And whoever said they follow Amir al-Mu'mineen, we put him with us in a group, and they were the people of salvation. Whoever followed Amir al-Mu'mineen, we grouped him with us, and we grouped him based on us being the people of salvation. And anyone who said they didn't follow Amir al-Mu'mineen, we put him aside. We don't need him, and he's not part of salvation. And Imam al-Baqir responded and said, that's not what Allah said in the Quran. What about al-mustad'afina min al-rijali wal-nisa'i wal-wildan la yastati'una hila wa la yahtaduna sabila? What about those people that don't have a way? The mustad'afin, those people that have no way, they have no hila or sabil. What do we do with them? He told them, what about mu'allafatu qulubuhum? What about all those that Allah mentioned in the Quran? You're forgetting them. Heaven is not only for the people who deserve heaven. The people who deserve heaven will enter heaven easily. But heaven is also for those who are ahlul tawbah wa ahlul shafa'ah. Those who Allah will have mercy on, and who there'll be shafa'ah done for them. It's different. In one narration, Imam Sadiq tells us of a man who was in a country where there was a tyrant. And he was standing up to the tyrant. So the tyrant sent militants to kill him. So he had to leave that country, and he went to a land of disbelievers. And in the land of disbelievers, he met this disbelieving man who sheltered him and fed him and clothed him and protected him. So how do we deal with this man who saved this believer of Allah that was standing up to a tyrant? In the hadith, it says, when the angel of death came to take his soul at the end of his life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if there was a place for you in my heaven, I would have placed you there. But because my heaven was only for the believers, then I will tell the fire, O fire, do not harm this man. And provisions must be made for him daily. So not only is it that those who don't go to heaven means they go to hellfire. There are those people who they don't go to heaven, but they don't get punished. So then, slowly we are realizing that the entry into salvation is much wider than some people make you think it is. It's not exclusive. There are different levels to it, of course. There are different levels to Jannah, different levels. And we don't want to be with the people that are in fire but not getting harmed by fire. But still, we understand it's not exclusive. That there is mercy. That this person didn't complete the human project in his potential, because he was lacking. But he's not going to be experiencing wrath eternally. He didn't do something wrong. There are those people who are not believers, who are very charitable, and they have human qualities, which are qualities of Allah. Generosity and love. All those people will be judged based on their actions and qualities. And Allah is the judge. We're not the judges, but we hope to be of the first class in Jannah. The people of Jannah we want to be. That's the difference. Allah created the door of tawbah for so many people that no matter how far you go, you can always come back. When we ask, Ya Allah, why did you create all these sinners if you're going to put them in hell anyway? But Allah created all these ways for you to go to heaven. Much easier to go to heaven than to go to hell. If I did something wrong, Allah says, just come back. I will always, always, always accept you. You just come back. As long as you have regret in your heart, and you say astaghfirullah on your tongue, and you have the resolve not to do it again, you're forgiven. Ya ibadi alladhina asrafu ala anfusihim la taqnatu min rahmatillah. Allah says, O my servants who have transgressed against their own souls, do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Despair and yes is the worst crime that you can do as this human project. To say, khalas, I'm too far gone. Inna Allah yaghfiru dhunuba jami'a. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives all sins. So, even with Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, when he was walking one day in Ramadan and he saw a man in Shahr Ramadan drinking. And he looked at him, not only is he breaking his fast, but he's drinking. So he said to him, oh man, why are you not fasting? Why are you committing this great haram? The man said, I'm too far gone. Allah will never forgive me anyway. So khalas, I might as well. So he said, what did you do? So the man responded, there was a time in which I served a great king. And I told him, I'll give you everything. He asked me, what would you give me? I'll give you everything. I'll give you my life, my money, my family, everything I have, and even my religion. The king said, good, you are loyal to me. And he would gather the followers of Imam Ali alayhi salam, one by one, and would tell him to kill them, to behead them, to kill them. He would gather and he would go and kill them until he killed, according to the hadith, about 60 followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And he knew he was doing the wrong thing. And then he had yes, and he gave up on himself. So he said to Imam Sadiq, this is what I've done. I've committed these atrocities, there's no hope for me. So the Imam responded, Al-ya'su min rahmatillah, for you to despair of the mercy of Allah is more grave a sin than what you did. So I'm telling you only these hadiths. The hadiths say this. I know it's very hard to comprehend. When I read them, I'm shocked. But that's the religion that we follow. It's so much mercy. Allah is the judge. I know that this sounds confusing. Exactly. لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا. Exactly. He will say to us, إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون. You go back to the angels. The Ahlul Bayt are explaining to us how much mercy there is. All of this mercy, constant mercy. And then there is shafa'ah. For those right at the end. For those who didn't even get the opportunity to even say, Ya Allah, I'm sorry. What happens to those people? What happens to people that didn't even say, forgive me? They tried and they had no way, they couldn't even believe they were forgiven. What happens to those who, at the end, on Judgment Day, they feel like they have no path left? In our hadiths, on the day of Qiyamah, when the angels surround Sayyidah Zahra alayhi salam, and they walk with her. And as they walk, and everyone is standing, a voice calls out, everyone lower your heads and lower your eyes. No one look up. And everyone lowers their heads. And Sayyidah Zahra starts to walk towards paradise. And then she stops. And then she's asked, is there something wrong? What is it? What do you want? Is there a haja? And she says, yes, I have a haja. What is your haja, Ya Zahra? And she says, I want to save those who gave nusrah to my children, who gave victory to my children. I want to save my Shia. So Allah says to her, S'alini tu'ti. Whatever you want, I'll give you. It's complete. S'alini tu'ti. Anything you want. Ishfa'i tushaffa'i. You choose who you want. So what does she do? She goes back and then she starts to choose them. She knows their faces. She knows their spirits. She knows who you are. She starts to take them one by one. Just like the bird that comes and decides to take the best food for her children, Sayyidah Zahra will come and start to choose one by one her followers. She brings them all and she is the leader. And she walks and they walk with her, protected by her on the day of judgment. She walks and they're behind her. Bihamad Zahra alayhi salam. And then they stop. And then the angels ask them, why are you stopping? What is it that you need? And they say, we wish to go with our Lady Zahra, but we miss those that love us. Can we bring them as well? And they say, for Sayyidah Zahra, you can bring whoever you want. So then they go back and they bring all of their loved ones. You know that covenant we make on Eid al-Ghadir? وَلَا أَدْخُلَ الْجَنَّةِ إِلَّا وَأَنْتَ مَعِي. The lovers of Sayyidah Zahra alayhi salam, they can do this. When she chooses you, because she did shafa'ah for you, she gave you now the ability to do shafa'ah for someone. So then you can bring your beloveds with you. And then Sayyidah Zahra starts to walk towards paradise with all her beloveds and their beloveds towards paradise. And subhanallah, who are those that gave nusrah to her children? if it wasn't the shuhada and the martyrs and those who sacrificed for this path. That when Sayyidah Zahra alayhi salam knew it was her final night, with her merciful heart, she bathed and clothed her sons, and she sent them to the masjid. And she sat with Imam Ali alayhi salam for the final time. And the Imam went with his children to the masjid, and Sayyidah Zahra spent her final moments speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When she was in her room, reciting Quran, until her voice was no longer reciting. And Imam al-Hassan and Hussain came home and could not hear the voice of their mother. And when Asma told them, go and call your father Ali and tell him there is a great tragedy at home. And so Imam al-Hassan wal Imam al-Hussain run towards the masjid. And they see their father Ali sitting down. They run towards him. Abata, come quickly. There is something wrong at home. Imam Ali stood up so fast. His face became pale in an instant. And he ran with his children towards the house. They opened the door of Fatima, and they saw her pure body laying lifeless on a bed. And Ali stood as he watched Al-Hassan wal-Hussain run towards her, grabbing her, pulling her chest towards their faces as they cried, Ummah, Kallimini, talk to me, my mother. And there is no response. Imam al-Hussain kept holding on to her until Imam Ali came. He couldn't pull off Imam al-Hussain, and Jibreel called out, Ya Ali, remove al-Hussain from the chest of Zahra before the heavens collapse. And so Imam Ali bathed his beloved wife, and as his hands bathed her body, he felt the broken rib. He started to cry, standing in the corner of the room. The hero of Khaybar crying in the corner of the room. Nothing could break Ali except the broken rib. And he wrapped her in the kafan of her father. And he took her with her sons. And he remembered her voice when she told him, bury me in the middle of the night, and let no one come to my grave. And as Ali laid her into the grave, taking the soil with his hands and placing upon the body of Zahra, he called out, Ya Rasulullah, I have returned the amana. Now I am alone. No more Muhammad and no Fatima. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون ولعنة الله على الظالمين.